You scared me there, youngin'. I don't get many visitors around here anymore. Well, since you're here, why don't you sit down and let Papa Tonesville tell you a story? Once upon a time, there was a powerful wizard named Gabe Newell. He used his magical powers to make incredible PC games in the mid-2000s. PC enthusiasts across the world enjoyed their games, as console players looked on with envy as they played inferior console ports. But during their rise to power, Valve became bewitched under the dreaded curse of corporatism. The enticing aroma of microtransactions was too much to bear, and Valve's magical creations were tainted with loot boxes and borderline illegal gambling rings. Thus, the era of Valve games came to an end, and some even speculate that the sequels to their beloved games have been sealed away in a dungeon, never to be seen again. I believe that Valve's magic is still out there somewhere, but we just need to get to the source of it. The source! Oh hey, I'm back in 2023. And my microphone was long enough to go through an entire portal. So yeah, now that we're in 2023, we have a ton of games to play. We got Cyberpunk DLC, we got Starfield, we got Baldur's Gate 3, but you know, I've got a different kind of magic on my mind, and that is the magic of the Source engine. My gaming experience has been pretty hit or miss early on. I grew up with the PS2 playing games like LEGO Star Wars and Need for Speed Underground 2, which has an absolutely goated soundtrack by the way. I'm pretty sure this was the game that introduced me to Rise Against and Nu Metal. Most of my gaming was done on consoles, but I also had a terrible gateway PC that could buffer an entire AVGN video in under a whopping 8 minutes. Yeah, I had it made. I was never super into PC games other than old school RuneScape, known back then as RuneScape 2, but then one game came along and changed my entire PC experience. I remember seeing a video called Peter Griffin and Counter-Strike Source, which is a pretty self-explanatory video. The video wasn't all that remarkable, it was pretty much just someone playing the game while doing a Peter Griffin impression, but it gave me a glimpse into the world of Valve and its proprietary game engine, the Source engine. Seeing this game completely blew my socks off. Remember, most of the games I played during this time were either Sonic games or a licensed game to whatever kids movie was out at the time. I had never seen anything as good looking as this. The graphics looked amazing. There was a voice chat feature where players could talk to each other with these terrible quality microphones. Players could press a hotkey and graffiti whatever JPEG they had installed on their computer onto the walls of the in-game maps, which essentially means that you had an FPS with a built-in Playboy magazine. Most important for me though was the ragdoll physics. Source games had the best ragdoll physics for its time, if not the best ragdoll physics of all time. Killing another player felt so much more impactful when you could see their character's head flying back after shooting them with an op, and it didn't play a generic pre-made animation where they fall on their back like most other shooters at the time. I remember begging my mother to spend $15 to buy CSS, making it the first ever game in my Steam library. My terrible gateway PC struggled to maintain a consistent 18 frames per second on maps like DDoS 2 and Office, and that's where I discovered the amazing world of community servers. You see, Source games aren't just limited to what they say on the tin. You'd fire up CSS expecting a competitive shooter, which is what it is. But the software development kit for the Source engine is free and available to all Steam users who own a Source game, allowing players to mod them to their heart's content with custom skins, maps, and game modes. You had the standard bomb defusal game mode, but in the underbelly of CSS like community-developed surfing and bunny hop maps, taking what are essentially unintended quirks of the Source engine and turning them into their own games, with players constructing intricately detailed surf tracks and bunny hopping obstacle courses. Custom community servers would greet you with a bit-crushed MP3 file of Motorhead while you ignore the server rules and gear up for an intense round of gun game.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
And most of the community-made maps were made with very few assets, meaning I could easily run most of the gun game maps on my terrible PC. I remember that iconic Quake announcer yelling in my ears as I dominate another player on a modded recreation of Springfield from The Simpsons. I remember taking a break from that and playing a round of zombie survival or death run. And of course, you have the iconic Ice World Deathmatch servers. Forget 1v1 Rust or Guardian, Ice World Deathmatch was where the real beef got settled. I remember there was one community-made gun game map called GG_boob, and I swear to God, it's literally just a giant box and the textures are just JPEGs of topless women. And I remember other players were crouched in a corner at their favorite JPEG and seeming to be AFK the entire game. I really should not have been playing this game as a kid. The endless customizability is aided even further by the Steam Workshop, a digital host for player-made modifications with direct support for most source games. Installing mods through the Workshop is as simple as clicking the subscribe button, which helps even more to tailor the experience towards each unique player. If you want to go back even further, you have Game Banana, known back then as FPS Banana, where you could find plenty of tactical gloves and knife skins with those Guy Fieri flames. This was the mid-2000s after all.
Hot rock flames! Buddies! Hot red flames! Buddies! Hot red flames!
It's insane to think that so much variety can be squeezed out of just one FPS game, but we've only scratched the surface here. I mentioned before in my Starfield video that Bethesda's status as a creator of modular games has overtaken their status as a creator of amazing RPGs like Skyrim and Fallout 3. While mods greatly enhance the experience of these games, the mods never made the games. However, that is not the case with the Source Engine. You have Valve games, which are absolute classics, but the Source Engine is so modular that players have built their own entire games using the Source Engine. And they are just as good as the games made by Valve, if not sometimes better. In fact, if we go back to Half-Life 2, you'll see that a surprisingly large amount of popular franchises originally started as source mods. You may be playing Insurgency Sandstorm right now, which is a brutal marriage between a fast-paced Twitch shooter and a tactical milsim. But did you know that Insurgency was at first a mod for CSS? The Chivalry franchise had its humble beginnings as a mod for Half-Life 2 called the Age of Chivalry, which paved the way for a niche genre of games, essentially merging together an FPS and a fighting game in a first-person medieval setting. Check out my Medieval Slashers video for more information on that. Not only have fans made successful games by modding the Source Engine, but many of Valve's games themselves are products of mods. Counter-Strike started out as a mod for the original Half-Life, Dota was originally a mod for Warcraft 3, Team Fortress started out as a mod for Quake, and of course, there's no way I can mention modded games without talking about the ever so popular Garry's Mod. Garry's Mod essentially gave players every single asset of the Half-Life games and gave them a bunch of tools to do whatever they wish. The sandbox nature of Garry's Mod lent to an even wider variety of game modes like Trouble in Terrorist Town, horror maps, Tower Unite. This one game mode I remember fondly where you could build your own sled out of makeshift materials and race other players to the bottom. These game modes, as well as the game modes in other Source games, are incredibly simple and easy to pick up and play, making them excellent party games to play with friends. Hell, even the first games I uploaded on my channel were just me and my friends playing Left 4 Dead and Garry's Mod while they were completely wasted, and they were still able to keep up with everyone else and have a great time.
Bravo.
Let me out of here.
If you got the gun, you better use it. Oh, fuck.
Speaking of videos, you also have the memes and machinima around Source games, which brought them to an even higher level of popularity. You had the OG machinimas like Counter-Strike for Kids, the insane Clayman Incorporated series, which probably also helped develop my love for metal music. Garry's Mod also brought along a ton of memes and videos. The Idiots of Garry's Mod series comes to mind with that. And Valve would then release Source Filmmaker, which is a 3D animation software they use to make promotional videos for TF2 and Day of Defeat. There are countless SFM animations on YouTube, and many people today even get paid full-time to produce these animations. Usually animations of the adult variety. Some things never change. Just as a reminder, all of these different game genres and pieces of software are all based on one engine. It's without a doubt that the Source Engine is timeless, but why is that? If you're looking at these games from a modern standpoint, they really don't look all that great. The graphics were good at the time, but they're dated now, the animations are janky and unnatural, and the audio isn't the best quality. You would probably assume that it would be a better idea to just develop your own standalone game using the Unity or Unreal Engine, but the Source Engine provided players with the same kind of tools as Roblox provided their players. The janky nature of modded source games is honestly comforting and indicates that what you're playing is made by a group of people who likely don't have a background in computer science or game design. They just wanted to make a fun game without having to spend a bunch of time and money to get into proper game design. Playing an old-fashioned source engine game is like cracking open a time capsule to 2006, a time where you didn't have Twitch streams and in-depth wikis for anything you could think of. You didn't have to worry about overcomplicated mechanics or excessive tutorials constantly holding your hand. This was an age where video games were pure, unadulterated, unapologetic fun. No FOMO-inducing battle pass, no half-finished live service shenanigans, and no microtransactions. At least until TF2 became free to play. You can jump into most of these source games and start playing within a minute of launching the game, and the small file sizes make them very easy to leave on your SSD if you need something quick to kill time. You always know you're going to be in for a good time when you fire up any of these games, all made on a revolutionary engine that was decades ahead of its time. It's unfortunate that Valve has mostly transitioned to gaming peripherals instead of making more slam dunk titles that define PC gaming. Now, I know that I'm a complete hypocrite by saying that because I'm a bit of a Valve shill. Modern Valve selling hardware instead of software is like a restaurant asking if Pepsi is okay. Like, sure, I guess this will do, but you know what I really want. While gamers are patiently waiting for Valve's next title, that is, if Valve ever does make a game in the future that isn't an esport, you still have an endless variety of source games in whatever genre you want. If you want a horror game, you have Cry of Fear. If you want an MMO, you have Vindictus. If you want an action RPG, you have Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. If you want a shooter, you have Military Conflict Vietnam, which is criminally underrated by the way, and this was the game that inspired me to make this video in the first place. If you're feeling competitive, you have Dota 2 and CSGO, and if you want to just lay back and enjoy a casual experience, you have Fistful of Frags and Gary's Mod. The Source engine is an incredibly flexible engine and will continue to be used to make great games in the future, especially after the release of the Source 2 engine with titles like Half-Life Alyx and the newly released Counter-Strike 2. I assume that Valve is debuting the Source 2 engine with these familiar IPs as a method of testing the waters for the next big projects they're working on, so here's hoping we'll see another Valve classic in our lifetimes. Until then, I'm gonna be dominating in some gun game servers, and I hope to see you there.
Dominating!
So what do you guys think of the video? Are there any source games that I didn't mention? Are there any source games you think are good or bad? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this. Peace.